As usual, the AL East has stayed tight.
Phil Hughes looked great last night.
Phil Hughes,
he really pitched one of his better performances. 7 1/3, 7 strikeouts. Really pitched like we needed him to pitch. So held the Red Sox. We only scored 2 runs last night.
Can you turn the headphones up? I'm sorry. With Phil Hughes pitching good for you guys, that's a positive sign. CC Sabathia goes tonight, which is something that you're interested in seeing as well. Now, they are tied with Baltimore now at the top of the AL East. On top of that,
and Pixel Junkie puts in a good point. Hughes didn't give up any homers. He has given up a lot of home runs this year, but he's pitched well enough to keep pace with the Orioles, who just keep winning. 27-7 in 1-run games this year. Unbelievable record. Everything is falling their way, as my dad puts it every night. Everything is just going the Orioles' way this year, but we seem to be keeping pace, and I like our chances being that. Tonight's matchup, I like who we got. We got a great matchup tonight against the Rays. CC versus Price. Sabathia versus Price.
Good pitching, man. We were actually, me and Eric were talking about this upcoming series this weekend with the Tampa Bay Rays and how at least the first 2 nights are some really interesting pitching matchups, as we just said. CC versus
also
Price.
Next night is Shields and Nova.
So you got
Nova coming back off an injury. We need him to pitch well. And great news for the Yankees yesterday. They're going to get Pettit back Tuesday. He's pitching, which makes me happy because we need him back more than anybody. Because at least if we can go into the playoffs, if he can give us something, he's the winningest pitcher in baseball playoff history. You can't go wrong with having him on your roster.
No, so he's not going to cave in the spotlight,
exactly,
that's for sure.
And I like the fact that he's going to get at least 3 starts before the playoffs start, so he'll have a little bit of time to get acclimated, get back into the swing of things. I like the Yankees are starting to get healthy. Now, I understand Jeter tweaked his ankle, but it didn't stop him last night from passing Willie Mays on the all-time hits list, become the 10th.
See, that's the coolest part about watching Jeter play over, whether it's another year, another 2 years, whatever it might be. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to sit here and just watch him slowly, chip away at some of these leaders in some categories that are a pretty big deal.
He rolled his ankle the night before, not last night, but on Wednesday night. Rolls his ankle. It was an injury that he had previously from the week before where he did it against Tampa. He could have easily sat last night out.
He's to take a
pain.
day. Yeah.
He wasn't as sharp as he could have been. He wasn't running, full speed or.
Well, he went what?
Crazy.
1 for 4, 1 for 5,
1 for 5.
1
Actually.
for 5 last night. But that
hit
was a big deal.
That one hit was an RBI.
So that's what I mean. He steps, even though 1 for 5, like you said, he probably could have taken last night off just to give the ankle a little rest and not put too much weight on it. But Derek Jeter knows exactly where his team is, knows exactly what his team needs to do to get to the playoffs. And for Derek Jeter, that's what matters. Derek Jeter, out of anybody that's playing right now, he is guaranteed to be one of the people that refuses to let his team not make the playoffs and not win the division. That means a lot to him, especially in what's going to be one of his last couple years. I'm sure for him, he really wants to make sure that things stay in a positive note for him. I know for damn sure the man does not want to walk away from the game of baseball on the low end of his career with his team not playing well either. And he's played lights out. You got to argue he could be considered an MVP candidate, maybe not as high up on the list as...
He's 3rd in the AL in batting.
Yeah, 3rd in the AL in batting. He's up there in RBIs. He's up there in hits.
Who thought after last year when he had such a terrible start to the year... I think 296 for the year, but for the first half of the year, he was around 200. Wasn't until the second half where he got hot. A lot of people thought Jeter was on a decline. This year, he's leading the AL in hits, 3rd in average, and back up to 323. You can't knock him. It's so hard. Where else are you going to find a shortstop in the league that could do that for you? Even at his age.
Yeah, you can get younger. It doesn't really matter. I completely agree with you on that one. You're not going to find many players in the league, whether it's shortstop or any other position player, that does what Jeter does and the way he does it and the way he goes about it. I've said it numerous times. Derek Jeter, I slightly have a man crush on. I think Derek Jeter is the definition of what a role model sports type athlete is supposed to be. I am definitely a big fan of Derek Jeter. Now, the playoff race, all in all, outside of the AL East, because I mean, obviously, that's the one thing that anybody in the local area is tracking.
I just gotta mention one thing. Pixel Junkie just said Jeter is only 974 hits away from Pete Rose. He could do it. I don't think he's gonna play long enough to do it. I mean, he's not gonna have 200 hits a year for the next 4 years. I mean, even if he played, he would need 5 years pretty much, or more, maybe even 6 to beat Pete Rose. I don't see him doing that. I just don't. I don't see him playing another 6 years.
Yeah.
I see him playing through next year, and then by the time he's 40, 41, I think he's going to call it quits. So I don't think he's really going to get to Rose, where we've talked about this before. I think he's only going to get to about 5. Has a chance at 3, but I really see him somewhere around ending up at 5.
Fife likes seeing him play DH perhaps for a few at the end of his career. And I mean, let's be serious here. In the AL, DH is you're playing 100 games out of your year. I mean, you only do interleague play for a section of the season. It's not like it's mixed throughout the entire year. And when it comes down to what you see out of Derek Jeter, I don't think his hand-eye coordination is going to go down that bad that he couldn't do it. But I do agree. It's hard to fathom him playing another 6 years. That's a long stretch of time. On top of that, I don't see Derek Jeter being okay playing for another team. So I could see, him and the organization agreeing that it's time to, put up the cleats. But a competitor never wants to be told he's done playing. So you never know. Derek Jeter might try to play until somebody has to rip him off the field and say, you're done. You're not doing this anymore. When it comes down to it, though, what I'm interested in is not just the AL East playoff race, because to be honest with you, this is going to go on for the rest of the year. When you look at the AL East, they are matched up division games for the rest of the year. Baltimore is playing lights out. We were talking about it. It's unbelievable how well they play in one-run games. I believe you read the
27-7.
27-7 in one-run games. I think they've won their last 2 games on walk-off hits. And when you look at it like that, that shows a level of confidence and a mentality that not everybody has, and also some good breaks. I mean, it's not like and every sport's like that. Everything is not all about your skills. Sometimes you just need the ball to bounce your way to, for lack of a better term. But that's really what it is. They have caught in some breaks this year that not other teams have gotten, and they've also created breaks for themselves as well. What to me is the biggest thing at the AL East is what you've seen happen since the All-Star break, and the fact that out of the 3 teams fighting for the AL East, the Yankees are the only team under 500. Now they're slowly back to 500 with the win streak that they just went through against Boston, but reality is reality. They're the only team out of the 3 that's under 500, and that's where my interest peaks with the fact that it's like,
yeah, but they had so many injuries. They had so much going on. I mean, you lose. I mean, really, since the beginning of the year, they've lost to their starting rotation. Everybody from Pineda at the beginning of the year for the whole year, actually, to, Pettit didn't come back until May, and then he was out in June. Nova had some problems. CC, for the first time ever, had to go on the DL twice. So, I mean, they had a lot of injuries that played into...
Oh, yeah, definitely didn't help their cause on trying to be a better team. That's for damn sure. And when you really think about it, you also got to say the simple fact is sometimes when you watch all these injuries take place, especially the key players and what you're trying to do for the year, sometimes you get a little doubt in your mind. You might not go out as confident. You might not play as well due to the fact of everything else going on. I mean, let's be serious here, though. The Yankees have too much talent not to make the playoffs. We've said this numerous times. I just don't fathom it. I mean...
Well, now, and especially now that their talent's coming back, and I know Teixeira's going to be out probably another week, but we'll get him back before the playoffs. And I think we'll be able to right the ship. I have a lot more confidence. My hand's a lot further away.
It slid a little bit away?
From the panic button than it was. Like I said, we're up 3 games. I'm sorry, 3.5 games on the Angels, and we're up 4 games on the Rays right now. As far as the last playoff spot.
Yeah, right now I'm looking at some of the other playoff races. You got Chicago up on Detroit by 1 game.
Yeah, that's close.
They actually play. They have a makeup game on the 17th, I believe, to make up for a
rain out.
A rain out. So that's a one.
Yeah,
just
well, no,
a one-game series.
They just had
in the
that
middle.
rain out the other night.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Verlander was actually supposed to pitch that night. So it got rained out.
So perhaps Chicago lucked out and doesn't have to take Verlander that game.
Exactly.
I don't have the pitching.
And
matchups
also,
in front of me,
one of the biggest surprises to me, the A's have pulled within 3 games of Texas for the West lead. I mean, the A's have been hotter than hot.
Yeah,
They really have.
And it's actually interesting because the A's have some games coming up that are impactful, not for just their playoff race, but for the AL as a whole. They're starting a 3-game series tonight against Baltimore. Then after that series ends, they get a day off, and then they start a series at Detroit. After that series ends, they're at New York. And then after that, they play at Texas. So the Oakland A's have one hell of a trip ahead of them to even try and pull off the wild card spot, to pull off maybe even the division. I didn't even realize. I'm looking at it now. I'm like, wow. So, I mean, the Oakland A's, not to put too much pressure on just one team, but they really look like they could be a very big determining factor on the AL playoffs as a whole based on looking at that schedule. And if they continue playing the way they're playing, they're definitely going to get what they want out of the season. The question is, whose season are they going to mess up and whose season are they going to help?
Right now, they're actually a game up on the Yankees and the Orioles as well.
Yes, for the number one out of the 2 wild card spots.
Exactly.
And then there are 3 Yankees or Orioles based on who right now, according to ESPN,
that
the
would
Yankees
be terrible
are the wild
if the
card.
Yankees ended up in the wild card. Well, that's because the Orioles hold the tiebreaker right now.
Okay.
If the Yankees had to get that second wild card spot, if they can't beat out Oakland for that, if we had to travel out west next day for 1 game, that'd be brutal.
Well, yeah, because you guys end the season at home against Boston, and then you'd have to be on the plane the next day, that night.
That night, going 3,000 miles west. That's a tall task.
That would be asking a lot, hence why a lot of Yankee fans really do not want to see their team get the wild card spot. They much rather see their team win the division, have home field, and get a day off. Now, you also have in the NL, you've got the Nationals and Braves slightly fighting for the NL East. I mean, under 20 games left, and Washington leads Atlanta by 8.5 games for the division. So I can't really say I expect the Braves to catch Washington in the NL East. My Mets are so far gone, we don't even need to talk about them. It looks like the Cincinnati Reds pretty much own the NL Central right now.
They own the NL Central, but the biggest thing is the wild card race in the NL.
Yeah, because the divisions are pretty much set.
There are 5 teams within 4 games. You got the Cardinals leading it for the last wild card spot. Nobody's really going to catch the Braves. The Braves got a pretty big lead on everybody else.
They got 5 games on St. Louis, 7 games on Los Angeles, 8 on Pittsburgh, and 8.5 on Milwaukee.
Yeah, so the Braves are pretty much a lock. They're not collapsing, but it's those other 5 teams all in the mix. And I thought it was just interesting that Philly, again, only 3.5 back. Pirates 2.5 back. The Pirates. I don't know. Do they play the Cardinals at all anymore?
The Pirates.
Yeah.
I will let you know in 1 second, my friend. The Pirates play. Their remaining schedule is. Let's see. They're starting a series today against the Cubs. Then they're against Milwaukee, which is another team that's part of this wild card race in the NL. Then they play the Houston Astros, the New York Mets, the Cincinnati Reds, and then they end the season against the Atlanta Braves.
It's a tough stretch.
That is Cincinnati and Atlanta, man. That is one hell of a final 6 games for your season.
Yeah.
You didn't do the Pirates any favors on that one. Yeah. That sucks, too, man. I was pulling so hard for them, too.
The other surprise team to me was the Brewers. The Brewers are only 3 games out.
Yeah, it's 72 and 71 right now.
And after how bad Jonathan Axford looked in the beginning of the year closing games, they had to pull him from the role. He has been lights out the last month. Lights out. He went from, I had him for a while on my fantasy baseball team, and he was so terrible I had to drop him. They cut him. They took away his closer role. He was blowing up, giving up runs every single night. He couldn't save a game to save his life. And now all of a sudden he found the magic elixir, and he's been on fire lately.